So we just finished reading Gruesome Playground Injuries. We just finished reading Gruesome Playground Injuries by Rajiv Joseph. What's everybody's first impressions of this play, huh? That Ethan picked for us.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
All right. So like, I read this like when I read the script like pretty early on, like right after I got the email, and I really, really liked it like immediately. This is actually my favorite play that we've done so far.
Interesting.
It is it's an interesting choice. As they say in Minnesota, where I live now, that's different. Yeah. But yeah, so the reason why I like it so much is just because it's so intense. And I think because it's so dialogue heavy, I mean, obviously like it doesn't rely too much on physicality as much, although it does, but not like the characters don't do much. It's all about the dressings and stuff. But the dialogue reads very believably. Like these sound like real people, and all of the, like, especially when they're kids, like when they're 8 years old and then 13 years old. And then maybe like, I think when they're like older teenagers, I'm like, yeah, I've had conversations like that. Like I have absolutely, yeah, that rings very, very true. There are things that I didn't like about it, and I can get into that like later, but yeah, that my first impression was that I liked it very much.
Any other first impressions anyone wants to share?
I mean, I just wanted to add to the dialogue and the believability of that, especially when they're kids, and like even down to the punctuation. Yeah. The questions were statements, and that's just so.
And there were lists like stories, but those were broken up into little statements, and those had question marks because you're going like this, and you're like listing all of your stuff and talking about all your things, and it kind of identifies that sort of pattern or whatever.
I've never done that in real life before.
No?
Oh no, never.
I think you do it a lot, but that's okay.
It's interesting, in the beginning of the play, there's a note, obviously, to the actors and directors, etc. But it says, at times in the dialogue, there are questions with no question mark is written. Absence of the question mark is purposeful. When there is no question mark, the question is delivered in a flat, non-inquiring tone. So he even draws attention to that, and that it's not meant to be asked everything going up.
Thank you.
Something okay, back up. I read this play one time in college, and I didn't care for it. And I'm reading it older, but also I'm finally hearing it with voices, and I enjoyed it much more. Something that really struck out to me is they're always referred to as kids. Every time in the stage directions, that's the word. In the stage direction, they always say the kids are at this age, but they always reference them as kids. And I really, really like that, because I don't know, I just think of at any point of time, we are kids, and sometimes we forget that we're kids and that we have emotions, and whether they feel valid or not. Because I know when I was younger, I would get upset for something that's nothing. Oh, a fly landed on my wrist. Boo-hoo, I'm crying. We're told to like get over it. But you're sad still. You're upset. And it's that emotional vulnerability of being a child, whether physical, emotional, whatever it is. I think that rings true for them throughout the whole play. And I just find that really, really fascinating. And it makes me enjoy it more when I think about it through that lens.
I add to that? Could I? The thing about them being kids, I think the tragedy, if you will, of their relationship is that it never matures. They're childlike, and they can't ever resolve their problems, and that's what makes it so heartbreaking. Why can't you just get it together? And so that that was very deliberate, I think, on his part, always calling kids, you know. Of course, all of you are kids, you know.
Yeah.
I think too, the injuries are very like a physical, what word do I want to use? They're emblematic of, we always say our inner child needs to be healed. Like saying, Tyler, that we're always children. And it's, I mean, I think right now it's very trendy to say we all have an inner child that needs to be healed, and like, look at all these injuries that they've sustained over the years, and how many injuries do their inner child have? Do their inner children have that need to be healed as well?
Right. But that's how they connect. It's their injuries that bring them together. So, you know, that's a ploy. Anyway.
And then one of the questions Ethan had left us is, what do the injuries represent for each character, since we're touching on the injuries? I think it's interesting that hers, or how Kayleen is sick throughout the play, isn't always necessarily like a physical thing. Like, she cuts herself for sure, and she throws up blood, which is visual on stage. But even at first, he's like, you don't look sick. She's not like missing her tooth or missing her eye. It's not as out in the open, her injuries and her trauma that she's grown up with, which I think is really interesting.
Until the end.
Yeah. He says early on, I guess maybe they're teenagers or something, Doug is talking about how brave he is. And I think that's kind of really important to him to be. And he also seems very touchy whenever she calls him stupid or retarded or whatever about his intelligence, right? And so I feel like his injuries are these badges, these scars, right? He's really into the scars, really into like being Evel Knievel and doing these crazy stunts and things, are his little badges so that everyone can see and know how brave he must be and how strong he must be, and that's just kind of like his overcompensation for his insecurity about who he's going to be, and you know, that people see him as something bigger, better.
They're both survivors. That's the whole thing. They have to survive traumas, you know, mental, emotional, physical. And that's what brings them together. Did you want them to get together at the end? Did you want them to finally say, I love you, I love you?
I think so, because I think in a hopeless romantic sense that I live in, I think, you know, there's this theme throughout where he's like, you heal me, she, you know, and then at the end she's like, I have to do this for myself. Like, I felt stupid, but I do care about you, when she visits him at the hospital. And I think there's a certain quality where it's like, you know, they're the only people in each other's lives who have shown up, who have been supportive in these difficult times with each other. Even though, you know, he seems to vanish for years at a time. I think there's an interesting tone of that made me hopeful for them at the end. Like, okay, everything in their lives have literally fallen apart now for one reason or another, but they keep finding each other. So maybe even though they're broken and wounded, they'll still find comfort in being together at the end. Like, it's like a sense of hope in a weird way, but maybe that's just me being sad.
But it's her that really doesn't go the distance, that she feels so broken. Goes back to when we talk about in class, what's your complex? She just never thinks she's good enough. You see her try. So this is a real tragedy.
Well, she talks a lot to Doug, saying, you don't get me, you don't get me. And he's like, I want to get you. I want to get you. And then finally at the end, it's reversed. Yeah. She thinks that she gets him. You want me to touch you, you want me to heal you, but it's flipped. He's like, you don't understand what I need in this moment, which makes it very heartbreaking. But I think that's also like one of the moments where they do grow up, because we never know what's going on with another person, whether the physical wounds are emotional, like our outer wounds and our inner wounds are two different things, and Kayleen struggles so much. And I think she finally, in the end, is probably in a good place emotionally. I mean, we don't get much info about her emotional well-being at the end. But Doug kind of also, in a way, seems at peace. It's like they both seem at peace with where they are in life, even though they just kind of keep missing each other. Like they come together, but on levels of emotional, I don't know what word I'm looking for in terms
Closure.
of like, yes, they're always like missing each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say they're definitely out of sync, right? Like they keep being drawn together, and they're drawn together, and they have a pattern. They come together, they catch up. They've missed some different events in each other's lives. They try to heal and patch that together. It doesn't really work out, and they repel again. But every time they come together, they're out of. It's never the right time for both of them, so they're always out of sync, missing. And
Exactly.
at the end, I was ready for the cycle to end somehow. Regina, you were asking about whether I wanted them together. I didn't think that was the best solution for either of them, really. But I wanted it to, like, cycle to end, or else the guy was going to be dead soon. One of them was going to be dead. Like every time we see them together, it's gotten worse, or he's lost an eye, she's almost killed herself, whatever's happened. Like
There's no stomach. Yeah.
it needed to end at some point. So
yeah, I didn't want them together either. And I felt like even though they were sick and injured and everything, it seemed like their conversations made things worse to me. You know, Doug trying to really be like, I love you and I'm trying to express this, and she's just like, no. And I know somebody said she felt like she wasn't good enough, but like I almost felt like she looked at Doug like, Doug's just a stupid kid. Like, I can't be with you, I can't end up with you. You know what I mean? You're just this kid on the playground that's really stupid and makes fun of me, but she keeps him around. I didn't want to see them together. I felt like the conversations weren't loving conversations either. You know what I mean? So,
No. Well, they're damaged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that thought they should be together? Because
I thought they should
I
be
should
together.
speak character maybe.
I thought they.
Yeah, I thought that.
I felt the whole play. So the play has to be about something.
Mhm.
So is the play about two people who can't connect, and then you are left going, "Oh, isn't that sad?" Or two people who just do love each other and probably could, but they get in each other's way. I felt that they would have been good together at some point. But they did a lot of therapy and more time together, not just once every 5 years, same time next decade, So
It's reminiscent to all of the timing in that way.
yeah.
right.
How like the timing is everything. They keep missing each other based on whatever. Like, Doug finally admits he loves her, and she's like, I live with somebody. And then she says she loves him, and he's in a coma and doesn't know it. Like, so they keep missing each other in that way. It reminds me of all the timing.
So anyway.
Sometimes
think
love
that
is
at the-
not enough.
I think at the end of the play, I have a feeling that after that very last scene, they probably did manage to make things work. Because at that point, I mean, I do agree with like a previous point made that like it's like the end. Hopefully, it's like the breaking of a cycle where it's like they're finally managing to be like on the right track, like together. I kind of wanted to see them get together or stay together or actually try to be together in a healthy way, just because like, they seem to be the only people who really understand each other
Yeah.
in a very true, like heart to heart, like soul to soul kind of way. That doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy people, but I don't know. That's my take.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Chia?
I was going to say that for me, I did not want them to be together, but mostly because throughout the play, I didn't really see it as a romantic love. I saw it as a familial love, whether it's like how you feel with a friend or a soulmate. You know, soulmate doesn't necessarily mean a romantic partner. And I feel like they are each other's anchor, and they're like how everyone's saying, like they're their only support. They're the only person that's constantly there when things go awry. And I felt like even in those moments when they were kind of throwing the I love you to each other and the moment wasn't necessarily right, it wasn't necessarily for me like, this is a romantic, like, well, I mean, he kept trying to kiss her and all this stuff, and there was that aspect, but I kind of felt like by the end, it was just like, you have been such an important figure in my life, and maybe you're not my lover, my partner, but you're my soulmate, and we kind of need each other. I need to continue embarking on this journey together, and I kind of saw it more of like a partnership rather than a romantic relationship at the end. You know,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Or you try to make it a romantic relationship, right? Like some people try to make those.
I guess you kind of hope for it, but I just felt like it, especially for her, for Kayleen, how do you say her name? I didn't think she was interested in him in any capacity.
Right.
But I think when you find someone who kind of gets you, where you kind of have that connection a little bit, regardless of how weird that connection may be, you want to hold on to that person, and you can kind of lean on that person. And I just feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic partnership. I just think it's more of like a soulmate type of relationship where it's like, you're my person, you know, in whatever capacity of that may be.
And guys always are like, I'm going to kiss you, right? Because that's the right thing to do.
Well, it's interesting because in scene 3, when they're 13 and they're at the dance and Doug's trying to kiss Kayleen, you know, I want to ask, like, as actors, how much of that could be played as subtext? Like, he's like, I want to kiss you, but I like this other girl. And she's like, you're stupid. Like, who cares? Like, because that's how it felt as I was reading it. Like, she's going to deflect and tell him he's an idiot because she's hurt that she wants to be his first.
That's what I think.
And she wants it to be meaningful, and he rejects her. And is like, I like this other person. And throughout the play, like, how much of it is subtext of what's going on?
I didn't think he rejected her. I just thought he was scared.
Yeah.
Yep.
And probing, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think he was just setting her up to see, does she like me? Is she gonna, how's she gonna? I don't know. So I actually think there was a lot of sexual tension, romantic tension that makes the story interesting, but they couldn't resolve it. They didn't see each other. They didn't, you know. So that I think the play, it doesn't go far enough. If it's, for me, if it's just about being soulmates, you know what I mean? Sorry, I have a dirty mind. I really felt that they needed to, you know.
Hey, sometimes you gotta bang it out. You gotta bang it out. It's okay.
There you go. Yes.
I mean, he really got her throwing his sock at her and everything. That's so hot.
It was so hot, and the way you did it, it was, oh my God. You know?
I know, it got me all hot and bothered.
Best striptease I've ever seen.
Anyway, it was good.
So that being said, I also want to follow up with a question about, as actors, how would you go from scene to scene? I know the transitions are built into the stage directions, very visible to the audience, but how would you do anything to change your age in the scene, or is the dialogue enough without it being too campy? Like, I'm a kid now. Like, what would you do?
Yeah, I was curious about that because the stage directions, or there's a note at the beginning, right? About they all need to be performed on stage at all times, visible, and even some of them can even, you know, be, I don't know, stylized, like not necessarily for efficiency and speed, so you can get that idea of the passage of time. And I do like when plays can kind of jump around and you tell the story in different nonlinear orders. And I think that's something that's hard to grasp when you're reading, to really see and kind of picture. I don't necessarily have the solution, I guess. I just like that too. That's a great question. Let's answer it.
Well, Well, I think, I mean, all of us talked differently at different ages. Like, I was a weird kid, but then by the time that I, like, 13, I thought I like knew something. So I was like, I'm gonna say words that my coach said or something like that. And you kind of feel yourself. And then when you're a teenager, like 17, 18, you have this idea that you got it all together. So there's a way of just, it's how a person interprets their own youth, I guess, since we're all our own individual person. Like, I mean, when I did scene 3, I played it as like how I feel like I would have talked as a 12, 13-year-old kid. And I mean, I'm not 39 at the end, but I just kind of imagine just a more like reserved person. The text never changed. They're just, I don't know, it's just different mentalities of who you are as we age. I don't know.
May I say something? Okay, as a senior citizen, interesting. You look old, but you don't feel any different. So I was in a show once where we played from 10 years old to say 50, I think, and it was pretty easy just to get in that head because you still feel young. You just look different. So maybe physically it's different, and you have a different perception. Like Tyler, right? Tyler said, he thought he was just so cool when he was 13, and that's exactly right. So I felt this play was really well crafted going into each scene, that I had enough information. Let's say I was doing it that I felt that it was emotionally fueled in the way the scenes were crafted one after the other. Is that what we were talking about? Okay. I'm old, senior citizen. What were we talking about? Okay.
And then to Jacob's point about the note in the beginning with the changing on stage to show the passage of time, what's everyone's thoughts on that? Like, do you think if it's because it helps take the audience on a journey, like for that, so that you're not expecting, like if the actors left the stage and then came back dressed as adults, would the audience be like, oh, these are different characters right now? Or like, what do you think the purpose of that is?
Go on the journey with them. Just everybody to clarify what's going on. It helps the actor and helps the audience. So, because sometimes I'll go to a movie and they're jumping back and forth, and I go, wait a minute, I don't know who this is. What's going on? So that helps clarify things.
I just feel like the trap would be, or something that would take me out of it if it went to stylized fantasy dream ballet as we time doing all this. But I might also get a little distracted even with just the like, oh, that's how they're changing the stage makeup, like the blood, like the first scene's bloody, right? Or one of the first ones is, and we go backwards, so it's not. And I would just be kind of looking for those kinds of details, which is fun. I guess it would just be a danger of like not making it too corny or whatever, and kind of pull you out of the story itself.
Yeah.
Oh. I would find it would enhance the experience. That would be, but I don't know. I've never seen this play, and I just read it once. So.
Anais, I think you look like you were going to say something before.
Oh, I was just mostly like internally processing what everybody else was saying. I don't know how you would really do this well, like in terms of like or do it effectively, like the progression of time and doing like the scene changes. I'm trying to think about like how I guess I'm trying to think about how I would do it if I were directing this show, but I have no answer. Sorry.
I think it could be difficult. I don't have an answer for it, but I would like the changes on stage. I think it's kind of cool. I haven't seen that done before. And I kind of agree with Regina. It does give you a little bit of clarity of what's happening rather than them going off stage and just coming back on. And it's an era in time, you know, a new time. Also, I love jumps.
sorry,
I thought the jumps were cool. Sorry.
You what?
Oh,
I really love the time jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
was amazing.
I was gonna say I just had this memory. A friend of mine did a one-woman show where there was a little. It was more of a linear progression through time, but she started the show like portraying herself at 13, and then there were a couple of jumps, and yeah, she did all of her costume changes like on the same stage, so it wasn't like there wasn't a disconnect. It was just to show like, okay, I'm 13 now. A few years have gone by, and I'm changing into my, I just graduated high school costume
Right.
piece, So that was kind of cool, and it didn't really take you out of it too much. It was literally just like, oh, sure, this makes a lot more sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think about as an actor too, all the time that is passed not in these scenes, because the characters reference these moments every time the time jumps. They're like, oh, when you did or didn't visit me in the hospital, at the dance, do you remember when we threw up? Like it's as if the only events in their lives were these ones, until like she mentions, oh, did you ever marry that girl? Like, I know about her, sort of things. But other than that, it's almost like their entire, like, other than these moments, their lives were just like paused and nothing happened. So as an actor, to think and build that whole history of what's happened in the 5 years that they haven't seen each other, that entire time, that they're still hooked into this other person.
And did their paths cross, or are these the only time? I mean, I don't know that there's could be the only times, right, in their entire lives that they've crossed paths, or was it just not significant or as significant of encounters until these 6 or 7?
Yeah, I thought these were the kind of, well, I'm sure in school they saw each other when they were younger, so yeah.
Yeah,
These are
definitely
probably the
seems like
most
these are the only
significant.
times, right?
Yeah, these would probably be the significant conversations that we as an audience get to see. But as an actor, I think it would be really cool to kind of come up with the in between, what happened in between with them. And there was a lot of detail in the conversations too to help you as an actor do that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, you didn't have to make up your own story. It was them.
Yeah, I mean, even like the scene that I did, where he jumps through her bedroom window and comes and is like, here, I bought you some Girl Scouts cookies. It's like, how comfortable are you with me that you're jumping into my bedroom window and you're bringing the wrong Girl Scouts cookies, but you're bringing me Girl Scout cookies? Like, I think you can kind of piece together the relationship, and you can kind of like, okay, there is a bond here. They are clearly close, so I think it does give you kind of enough for you to kind of chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even in that particular scene, when that's when the razor, right? She was cutting herself.
Cutting her thighs, yeah.
I was kind of like thrown, and also like, oh, he really, really cares about, or he really loves her, or trying to get really close to her, because sharing in someone's kind of that type of pain is, it's heavy. I thought that was heavy, to say, cut me the way you want. He wanted to share stuff with her. He wanted to like share every part of her experience. He was fighting for her. Right, he got beat up by somebody because they were talking about her.
Right.
Yep.
With hockey.
Well, he wanted to let her know that she was safe. She was safe with him. You know what I mean? He was safe with her. Sorry.
Also, what a 90s throwback moment, coming through a bedroom window. I feel like that happened in every show we watched growing up.
Larissa explains it all. That's all I think about.
Boy Meets World. They would do it all the time in Boy Meets World too.
There was a
They did it in
character
Buffy the
on I
Vampire
Told by
Slayer.
Ginger
Buffy the
who
Vampire
was
Slayer.
built around that.
Did he also say she wasn't listed? He was trying to call her, so he climbed the telephone pole because she wasn't listed. I mean,
Yeah.
only a couple little references like that.
Where was the nurse?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Like,
you're right. Where was
Character
she?
in the play. She was off stage.
I know, but like
She left
kids are
the boy
like talking
bleeding.
about kissing and stuff, and
Throwing
yeah,
up the buckets together.
yeah. And
Well, it's a dance. Not all nurses work during the dance. Let's be real.
she said,
Maybe
"Not
she was a
tonight. I'm home."
chaperone.
Also, like a lot of school nurses, because the kids come in, they say, "Oh, I have a stomach ache," or whatever is going on for them. They're
Go
like,
lie down.
"All right, like go lay down. Like I've reached my quota of care for you."
I remember
job
once
here
in
is
high
done.
school, the nursing area was so busy. One of the nurses came in and was like, "Okay, who wants to go home? Raise your hand." Everyone just raised their hand, like, "Okay, let me call your mom."
Yeah,
She was like, "We're maxed out today. Get out." It's amazing.